I don't hear what you're hearing. We just want to bring in the disco vibes. Hello and welcome to the EuroWhat, episode 281, dropping on October 21st, 2025. We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm Mike McComb, and I'm here with my co-host, Ben Smith. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Mike.
So, the original scope of this episode has changed quite a few times. We were intending this to be a preview / recap leading up to what was going to be the EBU voting on Khan / Israel's participation in Eurovision for 2026 on October 10-ish. There was a ceasefire enacted within Gaza, and EBU responded immediately to that by canceling the November vote and pushing the discussion and any further action that may happen to their regularly scheduled December meeting. As of this recording, the top headline on the BBC News app is Israel strikes Gaza and suspends aid delivery after IDF and Hamas accuse each other of breaking ceasefire. So,
just great work, everybody.
Yeah, so trying to adjust the work that had already gone into this episode and landed on shifting to discussing other times when the EBU has had to take action because of external events that happen to interact with the contest. We're just going to be covering a few examples of this. And I don't want to say I'm trying to keep it light because the events that are in discussion here, they are serious conflicts between nations or within nations, but they're things that have been more or less resolved, or there's at least some distance between now and when the last actions have happened. Things we won't be covering in this episode, times where countries have been disqualified because of financial debts, because there's not really a story there. It's just like, hey, we need you to pay your bills. We can't. Okay, we'll see you when you can. We won't be covering the time that Lebanon tried to enter the Eurovision Song Contest because we already covered that in depth in episode 65. We won't be talking about Belarus being banned from the contest because we were covering those events as they were unfolding back in 2021. And we also did a full episode about Belarus in episode 134. We'll be linking to these episodes in the show notes if you're curious in checking those out. And we're not going to be talking about Ukraine and Russia, partly because it's still ongoing and we don't have that separation yet. Also, I ran out of time in prepping this episode, and that one's a big one. So the examples we'll be talking about today are going to be Yugoslavia, just kind of, I guess, wrapping up our year of Yugoslavia, which this off-season seems to have become. We'll also be talking about Armenia and Azerbaijan and their back and forth taking place within the context of the contest, and also taking a visit to Georgia to talk about one of their more interesting incidents. So picking up where the pod crawl left off, previously on EuroWhat, Yugoslavia hosted the 1990 contest. And as we mentioned in that episode, this was around the same time that Yugoslavia was starting to disintegrate. Slovenia and Croatia were already on their way out. The soon-to-be former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, which is now North Macedonia, was also getting ready to pack its bags and go. And Yugoslavia was on its way to becoming no more. The country did compete in 1991 with the song Brazil by Baby Doll. Reading up on how this was selected, it sounded tense. The way that Yugoslavia's national final was set up was kind of like a mini Eurovision because you have all of the constituent states of the country and their individual broadcasters sending 2 or 3 entries to this national selection. So you do have that kind of like state versus state thing going on, but like way more interesting than the American Song Contest. And there was a lot of drama happening because of like knowing the political aspects that were in play, where it's just like Croatia knew that, yeah, we're not going to be getting any points from Serbia, probably no points from Montenegro. And like you could see the clear political divisions that were happening and were playing out in real life. Brazil, also a song that is the opposite of a Balkan ballad. I think that might be the way to describe it.
Like that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you remember this one from the 91 contest?
I mean, so much of the 91 contest, particularly from when we were watching it during Eurovision, again, just sort of blurs together for me into just one large ball of Tutto Cutugno just going, Allora!
Yes. Let me share a clip with you. It does actually begin with Allora. The person who cut this clip knew their audience. So...
All right. I am clicking on the video in 3, 2, 1.
What were your thoughts of this performance?
I know that there's a large contingent that wants us to bring back the orchestra, but bring back scenarios where like 3 of the backing dancers had to like sprint onto the stage, like right at the start. I believe it was the Disney Channel program Even Stevens, where one of the lead characters, realizing they have forgotten to prepare a presentation, they have one fact about us landing on the moon in 1969. And that's what this feels like, is just sort of like, I have 3 facts about Brazil. And to pad out this presentation, I have hired my friend to wear a sweater that says Brazil, and just sort of body roll in the background.
Yeah, this feels kind of Melfesty in a way. Like I don't know. I think the song is a little bit of a bop. But
I've seen, and also I've seen this Melfest entry before. It's gonna get to the second chance round and tank, but like,
it's unexpected, I think.
If given the names of several songs from 1991 and asked to pair them with the country, I would not put Baby Doll and Brazil next to Yugoslavia.
Man, like the dancing, like it's going so much harder than it has to. And there's this one dancer with kind of like a Jane Mancini haircut who is like just so militant in her facade that it's just like it's almost mirthless dancing.
Yeah, no, it is just sort of like the 1991 version of how now typically in the Irish national final, we will have like earnest singer, and then we didn't know how to stage the singers. 2 dancers just going real hard behind them.
I get the sense that this song may have been an attempt to perhaps project a completely different vibe from what is actually going on in Yugoslavia at that point. It didn't work. It finished in second to last place with 1 point. That is also Yugoslavia's second worst score after their own nil point in 1964. So, yeah, allora. Yugoslavia was kind of in its last gasps. It did compete in 1992, but at this point, Bosnia and Herzegovina and soon-to-be former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia are on their way out the door. In the national selection, you have Serbia, you have Montenegro. You don't have Kosovo because there's also tension between Albanians and Serbs within Kosovo. So basically, Yugoslavia is proto-Serbia and Montenegro at this point. They send extra Nena with Ljubim te pesmama, which finished in 13th place. We won't watch the video for this one, although I will probably send you a screen grab of the sort of dragon boat background that they had on the Malmo stage, but like where the dragon's head is like that Tron grid photo background pattern. Like, what is going on here? So at this point in the real world, the United Nations has stepped in to the war that has fully broken out in Yugoslavia. There was a ceasefire that was related to the violence happening specifically in Bosnia and Herzegovina that was signed in April 1992, but wasn't being respected at all. A month later, the United Nations passed another resolution to enforce the ceasefire and facilitate humanitarian aid getting into Bosnia and Herzegovina. That also was not being honored. And 2 weeks later, the UN passed one more resolution, this time condemning Yugoslavia for failing to uphold previous agreements. And they implemented sanctions and embargoes on the country. So even if the EBU wanted to continue working with Yugoslavia's broadcaster, they were not allowed to because of UN sanctions.
They were sanctioned from working with them.
I think the thing that I found most appalling about this is just like, oh, wow, like 2 weeks after not honoring humanitarian aid and taking action, it's just like, oh, wow, like I'm so glad things are moving so much more efficiently these days. What the hell? So, yeah, effectively, Yugoslavia is just Serbia and Montenegro. JRT, the Yugoslavian broadcaster, had dissolved at this point. So, was no longer an EBU member because it no longer existed. The replacement broadcasters, RTS in Serbia, RTCG in Montenegro, which are their current broadcasters, they weren't allowed because of the sanctions that were in play. Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, they all participated at Eurovision in 1993 for the first time as independent countries because their broadcasters were full-fledged EBU members. Former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, they didn't make it to Eurovision until 1998. Part of it was just kind of the timing of things, of like when they fully separated from Yugoslavia. Part of it is the naming issue with their country. There is a region of Greece that is also known as Macedonia.
And they are very protective of that trademark.
Exactly. Part of the issue of FYR Macedonia being internationally recognized, because Greece kept on saying like, no, you need to change your name. You can't just be Macedonia. You need to come up with something else. They eventually landed on former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and then Eurovision had to step in and be like, we can't fit that on the screen.
It doesn't fit on the placard.
Yeah. It's like, can we please come up with some sort of alternative? Traditionally, the acronym FYROM, FYROM, would be used. Like you would sometimes see that on maps. But then Eurovision was just like, not everybody's going to know what FYROM is. So they landed on FYR Macedonia. So it's like, okay, there's a compromise there. Greece still not fully happy about it. But it's like, okay, fine. We'll let this one piece of it go, but we're still going to dispute this trademark for a long time. Like it wasn't until 2019 when FYR Macedonia became North Macedonia. Anyway, FYR Macedonia did try to enter the 1996 contest. They had submitted a song by Calliope, who has represented the country a couple of times at Eurovision since then. But it didn't make it out of the pre-selection. 1996 was the year where they had kind of like the mixtape sent in ahead of time with all of the entries, and then a panel decided which ones would actually advance to the main event. 1997 had like a relegation system in play that required the average of points earned from the previous 3 or 4 Eurovision. Like it was just like an annoying math system, and like FYR Macedonia, like their number would be 0 because they had not previously participated. So they weren't able to qualify for 1997. So they formally debuted in 1998. Serbia and Montenegro, the war ended in 1995 and the original sanctions were eventually lifted and their economies were in really bad shape. And then they ended up in war with Kosovo, which ended up bringing in a new round of sanctions. So Serbia and Montenegro were pretty much out of commission until Milosevic was ousted in 2000. The country did try to debut in the contest as Serbia and Montenegro in 2003, but then there was another like relegation qualifying semifinals hadn't started yet issue, so there was no room at the inn. They ended up debuting in 2004. They compete again in 2005. They have a messy divorce in 2006.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, we're going to sit this one out. And have been in the contest from 2007 onward, more or less. So,
Yeah, and like it shakes up pretty well for Serbia, who come back in 2007, win, and then host in 2008. But yeah, no, it's a long road to get there.
We're now in the late 90s, early 2000s, and there's some administrative changes that have happened in the EBU at this point. In 1998, that is when the reference group is established. You are also seeing the changes in the contest. You've got the televote coming in. You have language rules being rejiggered. The orchestra is not long for this world, but the contest is starting to get more permanent structure rather than just passing the notebook to each host country from year to year. In 2000, there is a new rule that is added to the giant rule sheet. Section 7, performance of the songs. Rule number 4, the lyrics and or performance of a song must not bring the contest in disrepute. And that's it. That is the only way that it's really described for quite a few years. There's not anything calling out the political nature of songs. In the 2025 rules, there is now a section called non-political event. The ESC is a non-political event. All participating broadcasters, including the host broadcaster, shall be responsible to ensure that all necessary measures are undertaken to make sure that the ESC shall in no case be politicized and or instrumentalized and or otherwise brought into disrepute in any way. Up until 2000, none of this was explicitly called out. And I'm not even entirely sure what the inciting incident was for introducing the rule in 2000. There wasn't anything that immediately jumped out from like a response to something in the 1999 contest. But I think the phrasing of not bring the contest in disrepute is saying we have the right to refuse this if need be. So
yeah.
Going through some of the old versions of the rules, one of my favorite inclusions was in the 2002 rule set, where right after the song must not bring the contest in disrepute, a recommendation to express national flavor. And it was offering suggestions like, perhaps consider a national instrument or costuming or dances or something. It's like, oh, that's kind of nice. But it was like always presented as a recommendation. It was not like a requirement of just like, you must sing in Latvian or anything like that. One of the other big changes that happened in the mid-2000s that probably didn't catch a ton of attention was that the European broadcasting area completed an expansion. And this is like really getting into like International Telecommunications Union and committees on committees on committees and stuff. But basically what came of that is Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia were now brought into the fold. They pushed out the boundary lines just a little bit more so that they can come in, even though they're not technically in Europe, however that is defined. It was really tricky to try to find what it was in 2006 because it's like pretty much like, okay, we've decided that this degree of latitude and this degree of longitude is considered quote unquote Europe.
I have been in long, heated debates about what counts as the Midwestern United States. I understand.
Oh, yeah. So Armenia debuts at the contest in 2006 with the song Without Your Love by André. It was apparent that Armenia fans of the 2005 contest, very reminiscent of the like zither part of My Number One, like really drawing from that piece of the choreography. On Eurovision website, after André is announced as the artist, post a bio, giving some of his background, like the standard stuff that happens whenever an artist gets announced. And one of the things they included on his bio was that he was born in Stepanakert, Nagorno-Karabakh. It sounds like a fairly innocuous statement, like the same way it would be like, oh, Ben lives in Boston, Massachusetts. Mike lives in Chicago, Illinois. Nothing that would immediately jump out, except there's that implication in there that, oh, he lives in Chicago, Illinois, which is in the United States. That same sort of implication may have been in play with this line in the bio where it just says Nagorno-Karabakh. It does not say which country Nagorno-Karabakh is in. Azerbaijan raised this with the EBU since that is a region that had been in dispute between Armenia and Azerbaijan for a very long time. Like this is even before they had split off from the USSR. Eurovision took the L on this one, so good on them. And they just removed the line from the bio. They didn't try to clarify it in any sort of way. Like it was just like, okay, André was born.
Yeah.
End of sentence.
André is a person who has existed.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the times when Eurovision has gotten in trouble for showing a picture of how a country may look on a map and what areas they include, what areas they may not include, or like forget to include or something. Like I think it was in the 2010 contest, they put up a map of Cyprus, and yeah, they learned their lesson from that.
Yep. that's why we don't put maps on screen.
Mm-hmm. As we can see, it took a few years for the EBU to learn to be very careful about that sort of thing, which is kind of surprising given how much consideration they were putting with the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia discussion. But perhaps that was because like everybody was vocal about it from the jump instead of after an incident happened.
Well, and again, we are moving from, we have passed the binder from country to country, and sometimes lessons learned make it into the binder and sometimes they don't, to, hey, we should have formal structures for this.
And it is tricky because, I mean, like Armenia has debuted at this contest where this issue came up. Azerbaijan isn't in the contest yet. They don't debut until 2008, but they are participating in the EBU as a whole. So like they are, I'm not sure what their status was at this point. I don't think they were a full member, but they may have been an associate member, and they're just like, hey, not cool. So that's the dynamic that they're working with. Moving on to 2009, both Armenia and Azerbaijan are in the contest. They're both competing that year. The motif for the postcards that year is kind of clip art pop-up book and crazy hairstyles on models.
Yeah, we're like, here's a bunch of monuments from this country in like a hairstyle on a model.
And then it goes into like a pop-up book with all these monuments popping up out of it and like visually striking. In Armenia's original postcard, one of the monuments that's included is called We Are Our Mountains, which is a monument that is located in Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan complained, and it was removed from the grand final postcard. It gets a little catty after that in the jury performance. That's not how that works. In the grand final, when the juries are giving their scores, Armenia's turn comes up and they are very late in the lineup. They have in the background behind their jury presenter a picture of the monument, and it's also on her clipboard, which she is holding up to read off the results. So being very cute about it.
Yeah, like they're like, when you started the Azerbaijan Armenia section, it feels slightly reductive and not fully capturing it to say that my general understanding of the relationship between those two is two kids in the backseat of the car going, I'm not touching you, and so help me, I will turn this car around.
I don't know if this is like a Mandela effect or something, but I could have sworn when we did 2009 during Eurovision again, that portion was blurred out. I feel like I've seen a blurred out version of that part of the voting sequence, but I could just be misremembering that. The only reason that I think that it actually happened was because it's just like, why is it blurred? Like, it's just like, what sort of an obscene thing did they somehow get onto the screen? But when I went to look up the Eurovision Again video of the 2009 contest, like, it was not blurred. So I do not know what I was remembering or misremembering or what was going on. But it turns out that Azerbaijan's postcard may have included landmarks that are technically in Iran, like a Azerbaijan community area of Iran. So yeah, it is very much two kids in the back seat. It sounds like. Also goes a little bit deeper than that, where Azerbaijan was accused of censoring the Armenian portions of the program, which is a huge no-no in the contest, and that people were interrogated if they had voted for Armenia's entry that year. Breaking it down, there were 43 people who cast votes for Armenia at the contest, and at least a couple people were questioned by Azerbaijan authorities. And EBU did not approve of that at all. Azerbaijan was fined, and then there was a rule that was created making broadcasters liable if voter privacy is breached. So that was huge. This back and forth happening with Azerbaijan and Armenia came to a head in 2012 because Azerbaijan was hosting the contest. And Armenia was initially intending to compete. They even got so far as selecting an artist to go to Baku. There were other artists that were trying to organize a boycott of the contest. So it was like, I think a lot of people were really keeping their eyes on what was going to happen here. And then an Armenian soldier was killed near the border of Nagorno-Karabakh, and that really caused things to kind of escalate between the two countries. It was ultimately determined that it may have been friendly fire that caused this soldier to be killed, but really highlighted this, like, it's probably going to be a problem if Armenia goes to Azerbaijan. So they ultimately withdrew due to security concerns. When I was trying to find out more information and going to the Internet Archive, I did land on the old Eurovision page that had the story about the withdrawal, and the comments widget was still active on the archived page, but it had this note on it: due to the extensive amount of reactions not in accordance with the terms of use of the website and or the spirit of the Eurovision Song Contest, the reaction option has been disabled for this article. And it was just like, yup. No surprises there. So 2015, Armenia's entry was the group Genealogy, which featured 6 artists of the Armenian diaspora.
One from each continent.
Yep. It was called Don't Deny, and it was acknowledging the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. There were a number of countries that objected to this entry in a I am in this picture and I do not like it sort of way. Like Turkey did not approve of this entry, even though they were not in the contest. They are still members of the EBU. Azerbaijan also did not approve of this entry. And the song pretty much went through a please revise and resubmit process, which we see pretty often if there are like brand names included, like the Facebook song or Cheesecake, which had a reference to Google Maps, or like Kant this year being just like, oh yeah, you can't use that word.
Yeah, like, hi guys, hi. Like, even if we stick you after the watershed, no.
Need to make a couple of tweaks here or there, and you should be good to go. The only tweak that was made was that the title of the song was changed from Don't Deny to Face the Shadow. As far as I can tell, there were no other lyrical changes. It was essentially the same song. That satisfied the EBU. I don't think it necessarily satisfied the detractors, but it wasn't their call. But yeah, it was still just kind of not directly stoking the fires, but still bringing it up. 2016, we had the flag incident at the contest, which we talked about in episode 63, so I won't rehash it here. But again, the EBU, not happy about that.
We've talked about flags at Eurovision before, and it does sort of surprise me that it took until basically this year for somebody to go, hello, here is your Eurovision approved flag that we are giving to you, artist, to do the Parade of Nations flag walk with. We had this happen in 2016, and it is now almost 2026, and we are just now being like, hello, each delegation has been assigned one flag.
As of this recording, Nagorno-Karabakh is firmly in Azerbaijan's control. I think it's kind of internationally recognized at this point that that is the case. And the monuments that were at the center of their dispute in 2009 are pretty frequently vandalized and will probably be dismantled at some point. So, that's what's happening there. Georgia, this one, I don't know if I want to describe it. It's like, oh, this is a more fun one, but I think the song that is at the center of the dispute is a more fun song. Georgia, they debuted at the contest in 2007 with Visionary Dream. I would argue one of the best debuts at the contest. It really highlighted Georgia's Euro optimism and their intent to be part of Europe. We would love to join the European Union. We would love to be part of NATO. Like just really looking toward the West. 2008. They also do well at the contest. Their song finished in 11th place. Great job, Georgia. Really strong debut. In August 2008, there was a conflict with Russia on the area known as South Ossetia. It was only a week-long conflict, but it was armed conflict. And nobody knows where these sorts of attacks are going to, how they're going to progress. Obviously, Georgia is going to take issue with this. They have a national final for their Eurovision selection for the 2009 contest, and it was held on February 18th. One of the entries was a song by Stefan and 3G, which is called Put in Disco. I'm going to send you the clip of this. And there's a part where I would love for you to describe the choreography, and I'm not going to tell you when it is because you'll know it when
because I will know it when I see it.
Yep.
Oh, so I have had this on a playlist since we pitched PopCon, and we saw that on the PopCon thing was somebody just talking about this song.
Uh-huh.
It's just because it is a bop.
Oh, yeah. This is an absolute banger. Getting to the choreography. So
yeah.
What is happening in the chorus of that song?
So just we have just some real solid just sort of disco shimmying happening. Just everybody is in LeMay. We are sort of evoking the 70s. The negative mood is killing the groove. I'm about to shoot in, and they make the motion where you make a gun with your hand and you put it next to your temple and blam!
2009 was the year that Russia was hosting, and you know who had an issue with this song? Russia. The song was retitled We Don't Want to Put In, but again, the way that accents come into play, I think there are some people who may have heard We Don't Want to Put In. Russia's prime minister at that point was Vladimir Putin. And I I don't know. Like,
yeah, no, there was like a song a couple years before this where it was just like, no, they're very clearly saying dancing Lasha Tumbai. It means whipped cream.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, to no one's surprise, Russia complained about this entry, but nothing happened immediately. Like, the song was selected on February 18th, but the formal submission wasn't until mid-March. It's kind of on the same calendar that we are on right now in the contest. Thinking back to the controversy with Kant earlier this year, where the national final performance was put on the Eurovision YouTube page with, like, quote, singing. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's fine, I guess. We'll worry about it when it comes to the formal submission deadline. The song is formally submitted with its new title on March 10th. And EBU comes back. It's like, we're going to need you to revise and resubmit. And Georgia's just like, I don't hear what you're hearing. And yeah, we just want to, like, bring in the disco vibes, and they refuse to change the song. And EBU is just like, well, I guess we'll see you in 2010, maybe. Like, they just could not reach a resolution on it. So yeah, Georgia opted to sit out the 2009 contest. And it's been interesting to see kind of Georgia's evolution over the years, where it's Euro optimistic for the most part, but then it took a turn like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think of their 2020 entry, Take Me As I Am, where they're like just kind of like calling everybody out, and then they don't even get to perform because the contest is not held. I really think Georgia is one of the more interesting countries just looking at their Eurovision journey. And like just how attitudes have changed over the last 18 to 20 years.
Yeah, and I think they're a very, very interesting case study in sort of like how does the entries that they're sending reflect what they want to say to Europe as a whole?
Subtlety has never been a word to describe Georgia at the contest.
No.
I kind of love them for that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, there was nothing subtle about this entry, no matter how much they try to be like, what do you mean? Especially compared to, like, I'm thinking like their 2023 entry, where it's like, oh yeah, there's like, that is just all vocal, like front and center. And their entry this year was very, we are trying to get your attention. Yeah, so that's kind of where I ran out of time on the research for this. A little bit of a grab bag of like times where Eurovision has had to deal with countries that are in conflict with each other or within, like in the case of Yugoslavia, and how they navigate that decision-making process. And I just feel like there are lessons that can be pulled from how they've handled these previous instances that aren't necessarily being applied right now. Or I don't know, like I don't know what the tipping point is necessarily.
That feels like a good way to put it. As we have gone through these 3 cases, there's a lot of stuff I'm like, oh, that kind of rhymes with right now. Are we doing anything? Sorry, let me say that letter. Are we doing anything?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just like, okay, like there aren't UN sanctions in play. All right, well, that's not forcing their hand. Or like, I don't know, aside from like the revise and resubmits that may have happened, like there's just not been much action. I'm just really genuinely frustrated that the vote in November was postponed. Like, I think that they should have still held the vote, even if there was a ceasefire and it was going swimmingly. It's like, no, have the vote so that you have the process and the procedure in place so that the next time that you need to do this, you have something to look to instead of just being like, oh, okay, I don't have to solve this problem now.
And instead of the continued kicking the can down the road.
Yeah. It's just like be proactive instead of reactive about this.
Yeah, like I was also very hopeful that we would keep the November vote just because, again, is like it's you guys still need to talk about this, and I don't think that the urgency has gone down anymore.
Yeah, and I don't know if waiting until December is really going to be like I don't know. I will have to wait and see because they've given us no choice on that.
Yeah, we're going to wait and see.
That's going to do it for this episode of the EuroWhat. Thanks for listening. The EuroWhat podcast is hosted by Mike McComb, that's me, and Ben Smith.
That's me. You can find our full archive of episodes on our website at EuroWhat.com. If you'd like even more episodes, join our Patreon. You'll get access to a bunch of bonus episodes, including this month's dive into Allsång på Skånska and Vine Elama. You can get to the Patreon through our website or by going to patreon.com/EuroWhat.
Next time on the EuroWhat, we try to lighten things up by discussing joke entries.